Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to say welcome to today's Take Flight session. Today's Take Flight session will feature a guest of ours from the Center of Learning, Experimentation, Application, and Research. That office is also known as CLEAR. Today our guest is Vishal Malhotra, and he is the Assistant Director of Media Production for the Center of Learning, Experimentation, Application, and Research. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Macy, I'll go ahead and let you take over the questions. Macy is our graduate assistant for our internship area in the UNT Career Center.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Yeah, and thank you, Vishal. I would just love to pass it over to you, and if we could get a tour of your office and a little explanation about what you do, that would be awesome.
Of course. So a little bit about CLEAR. Right now, we are producing courses for the university, for online courses, hybrid courses, some face-to-face courses, and of course, our new initiative, which is Coursera. All these keep us busy a lot. Very, very busy work. That would actually be an understatement. So some of the things we do here is we do audio recordings, video recordings. So a professor will come in and say, I want to have some videos for my course. We'll have a meeting with them, determine their wants and needs, their learning objectives, what they want to accomplish. And then from there, that's more of a bigger conversation. Then I call them on my own to see what's in store for us. And usually it's a studio recording or it's a voiceover recording. And I'm going to show you how both of those, how that happens here. And if you all have any questions, when we're finished with the tour, I'll be ready to field those for you all. All right, let's get started. Let me flip this camera around. All right. Okay, so this is our work area right now. We're in the SSP building, which is on the edge of campus, on the south side of campus. And this is where we all work. My desk right here, where I'm doing a lot of video now, as you can see. So right now, we're editing a project for HMGT, which is health management. This is where one of our video editors sits. Here's where our media technical manager sits, whose job is to make sure our shoots go off without a hitch. This person, Jeff Merrill, who is actually controlling the camera right now. His job is to set up for every shoot, make sure everything technical is set. So he will set up the camera, set up the lights, set up the audio, and make sure we're ready to go. This one right here is one of our student employees. Out here right now, and we have another student board here. So let's get to the fun stuff. Show you the control room, which is right over here. It's a little loud in here because of the machinery and the racks. But like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know, and then I'll answer them at the end. Right here, what we have are 4 wireless microphones. So when a professor or a guest is in the studio recording, we give them one of these 4, and they can wear a wireless microphone so that we can record that audio. It's very important to have perfect sounding audio. You don't want it to be scratchy. You don't want it to be muffled. You want it to be as good as you can get. Because if you have great video and not audio, the whole video is gone. So that's why we've invested quite a bit into these wireless systems here. This one right here is called a Tascam solid state recorder. What this will do will let us record audio from the sound booth into here. Then we can take it back to our desk and edit the audio. Right here, we have a backup recorder and then a secondary recorder that will record audio and video at a lower rate in case of backups, or in case that we need to give the videos to the professor while we're editing the video. Here's some of our production machines that we use to edit. And here's some more. And then right here we have video switching, video routing. I'm going to show you more about that once we go into the studio. Video switching here, and this is our confidence monitor. Here's one of our our audio boards right here. We can preset everything here. So if I just hit a button here, it automatically puts the level where I got it set. Here's what we call a video switcher. This will let us switch inputs. So if I want to switch a camera here, I can do that. So now Jeff will show you on the monitor what I'm doing here. So right here, I'm going to switch from camera 1 to camera 2 to the monitor that we use for PowerPoints, or I can show you the inside of our studio. And the way we end our videos is here. So all of this is done right here on this switcher here. So I can take the camera here. What this does here for us is it lets us edit video live. This cuts down on post-production time, and this way the faculty member can have the video quicker and give it to the student quicker. So we like to edit live if possible, if everything is prepared. If not, we always edit that. Right here, you watch a lot of TV, a lot of news, a lot of sports. This is called the expression. This is used by almost every major TV and station. What it is a graphics package. This enables you to have broadcast type graphics. Just like you see in the news where they have the two names of your newscasters, we can do that for as well. Here's all of our production equipment that we use. We use a lot of different lenses here, a lot of different cameras are right here. And we have a lot of audio here. So we keep a lot of audio here just for field use, a lot of microphones for use in the field and in the studio. Now let's get to the great stuff, which is the studio. Right here, behind these double doors is our big studio. Our studio is just under 1,000 square feet. It was built about almost 2 years ago. So here's our prep table where we like to set up the camera, set up the batteries. If we need to do anything that requires a bigger table, like lay out the microphones, then we'll do it here. So like I said in the beginning, we do audio recordings and video recordings. This is what I'm going to show you now is a sound booth where a faculty member can come in, record audio if they don't want to be on camera. And they'll do that in this booth. And then we'll take that audio back to our desk, edit the audio, and put in either PowerPoints, put in images, put in stock videos, stock images. So we can do all that. So let me show you the sound booth. So the audio booth, it's actually called a whisper room. And the whisper room is very popular. A lot of faculty members like it. They use it quite a bit. And we've gotten a lot of use out of it. So it's one of our more popular items we have. This right here is one of our cameras that we use. This is a Canon C300 Mark II, if you want to know the exact specs. What we do with these are actually cinema grade cameras. So to give you an example, if you were to say, want to make a movie or a documentary for Netflix or Amazon, well, they have a list of approved cameras, and this is one of them. We like this camera because it gives us a very unique look to our videos. And that's why we chose to go with these cameras for our studio. They're amazingly powerful, very durable. We haven't had any issues with them, and We like the picture quality. Right here, when you watch news tonight, or when you watch any broadcast, you're going to see that they're probably using a teleprompter. That's what we use here. So with this little dial here, professor can come in, give us their script, and they can come in and read their script. So they have everything they want to say in the video already scripted. This way they stay on topic, they don't forget anything, and more importantly, they get everything they want to say. They can highlight anything, they can emphasize anything just by putting it on the script, on the teleprompter. And I'm going to show you the other side of that. Before I show you the rest of the teleprompter, let me show you one of the cool things that we have here. This is called a Wacom tablet. As you can see, it's a big thing. It's huge. What this does is, an example is if a professor wants to come in and illustrate some steps. For an example, a math professor came in recently and wanted to show how to do a math equation. Well, they came in and were able to write it out step by step, so you knew how to do the math equation. So here, you take our pen, and you can simply write anything you want. Pretty neat. You can do quite a bit of stuff here. Let's see. So you can make circles, you can do any equations here. So you can do all these things here and have steps with it. So it's really powerful. So the other side of that teleprompter, like I promised, is right here. So when you watch the news, there's no way the newscaster knows all that stuff. They are reading it from a teleprompter. This is what they're reading. This is what that looks like. So this is amazingly handy for the professors. They like using this. This keeps them on track. They can make changes. They can add, subtract. They can come in, and some people don't use it for just to read. Some of them just put bullet points just to have talking points, just so they can stay on track if they don't want to use a script. So let me show you what's above now. These are our lights. These are LED lights. They're called light panels. They produce very little to no heat. So this is what lights up our studio. It provides amazing lighting, very soft lighting, but we can also adjust the color. Right here, you see we have blue lights. But with the touch of a button, we can change it to red or orange or yellow, all for effects of the background. Let me give you an example of that lighting that I just talked about to show you how powerful that is. So we'll put the camera over there. So as you can see, with the touch of a button, we can change the room color immediately, very quick. Change it from blue, change it to red, or change it back to white. So this is how we like to change every shoot up. We don't want any shoot to look cookie cutter or to look like we just turned on some lights. So what we like to do is give each video, each course, its own unique look based on the topic. So And of course, we ask the faculty members if they feel strongly about using different colors, different type of art direction goes into different shoots. But it's a lot of fun. So we like creating and having a lot of fun here. So I think that's it for the tour. I hope it was interesting. We'll go back to my desk, and if y'all have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
That was so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that kind of inside look with us. I've never seen the inside of a studio or the behind the scenes or anything, so that was really, really fun. Thank you.
Glad y'all liked it.
I just have a couple questions kind of about like your daily job and responsibilities. Could you kind of tell us what skills that you use on a daily basis? And also if there's anything that you do that you weren't really expecting or that weren't in your job description, kind of more of the hidden things that go on.
So with the skills, I can start with software skills. We use Microsoft Office quite a bit. Even though maybe 10 years ago, I would tell you we would need Microsoft Office that has nothing to do with video production, I would argue with you now. We use Microsoft Office almost 40% of the time. Without it, I don't know what we would do. We use Office, we use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel almost daily. That's anything from a script to organization of the videos to the PowerPoints, which sometimes are our guide for graphics. Now, for actual production software, we use Adobe products, mainly Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, and Illustrator. There's another program called Media Encoder, which a lot of you all can use if you produce your own videos. Media Encoder allows you to adjust the quality and file size. You can actually send these things to YouTube, to Vimeo, or to your friends. So it's a very powerful tool. Some of the things we're experimenting with is a new program called DaVinci Resolve. If you're out there and you want to edit some videos, and you're like, man, I can't really afford Adobe, it's okay. There's a company called DaVinci Resolve that has an amazing all-in-one program. And it's a great little program to get you started. You can also, there's a pay version, but there's very little difference between the two. So if you are editing and you don't have the resources or the means to purchase the software, please download this one. It's called DaVinci Resolve, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a small learning curve, but now with LinkedIn Learning and YouTube, positive you can learn it very quickly. So some of the other skills that Jeff and I have that we apply to our jobs daily is troubleshooting. Something you can't learn, something you can learn on an internship, something you can learn on your own, but there's no class called Troubleshooting 101, sadly. There's every day we come to work and we're like, what are we going to learn today? So today we got one of our lights back from repair, and one of Jeff's job was to put it back into production. So he was hanging the light maybe 10 minutes before we started our tour, hanging the lights, putting it back on, but he needed to make sure it had the firmware that it required and the way we have everything connected to our lighting board. So with that, he had to do some troubleshooting, and that only happens when you're here, when you're on the job and things don't go your way, which is not always a bad thing. It's a learning experience, and that's how we see it. I think your other question was it, could you refresh my memory? I think it was something that wasn't stated in my job description.
Yes, yeah. What do you do now that you weren't expecting when you got here that wasn't like explicitly stated?
So my supervisor and my director were really good about when I started. It's 13 years now, last month, that I've been here at the UNT. But they were very clear about what jobs I would be doing, what I wouldn't be doing. When I started, I was supervising 2 student employees, still supervising 2 student employees, but now I'm also supervising 2 full-time employees. And that has changed. Up until last year, about 2 years ago, it was just 2 student employees. And now I have 2 full-timers. And it is a little bit different, but it's still great. We couldn't do this job without all of us. So it's really amazing to have a bigger team. But one of the things I do that I didn't know I would be doing is more of a counselor to some of the professors. Not everyone is a natural on camera, and that's expected. But some professors over the others kind of get frozen, kind of get a little nervous about being on camera with the big lights and the camera and the microphones. But we're here. We try to make them feel relaxed. We tell jokes, hang out with them, drink coffee, and it's not like we're shooting on film or tape. We're shooting on a digital format, so we can just keep recording. So if they mess up, it's not a big deal. We'll just try it again. And that's the attitude we have, is that it's fine. We'll get through it, and then we'll produce something really amazing for everyone.
That's great. It sounds like such a super positive experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Jeff and I have a lot of great times here.
Good. So you mentioned you've been here for 13 years. Congratulations. That's so exciting. What was your journey to get here to this position?
So I used to be a TV producer a long time ago for a private training company. That was great. And then I went on to freelance with this guy you may not have ever heard of. His name is Mark Cuban. I did some work with him back in Deep Ellum before he, had $30 in his pocket. So after that, I decided to go back to school. So I went back to school, and I was working at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History for about 5 years. And it was great. I was their photographer and video producer. And a friend of mine came in who works at the physics department at UNT. And he said, hey, there's this department at UNT that's hiring. I was like, great, I will check it out. I looked at it, and that was a Friday, and the job closed that night. So I poured some coffee and went through the application process, and very grateful that they called me for an interview, and it all worked out.
That sounds like a really fun, path that you've taken, especially Mark Cuban. That's so crazy.
He was just Mark then.
Just plain old Mark.
Plain old Mark, yeah. I worked with them for about a year at a company he owned called Broadcast.com.
Okay.
So just curious, it sounds like, having conversations and networking with professionals in your field has been really important to get you where you are. And I know sometimes when I hear the word networking, kind of makes me feel like I'm not sure what that is. So, can you maybe offer some advice to our audience on how best to approach building those connections? Coming to sessions like this, I think, is extremely helpful. But what might be some of the ways that our students can gain experience and start to make connections if they're interested in this field?
When I started, we didn't have LinkedIn. We just had meetups or gigs that we were all on together. That's how we networked. Now with LinkedIn, you can hear about associations and memberships that are having networking events and networking mixers, which are very valuable. For us in our field, we have Dallas is a major market, so there's a lot of media professionals here. So there's a lot of networking mixers here. There's 2 organizations. One is called TAB, which is the Texas Association of Broadcasters. That is a great resource for anyone who's in media production in Texas. Then the national branch, which is called NAB, National Association of Broadcasters. Those are the bigger umbrella of media production that also accommodates not just media, but film production as well, and radio. So, and they have a big conference, big trade show in Las Vegas every April. Looks like they're not going to have it. They didn't have it last year, and they may not have it this year, but very soon. And it is the second largest conference in Vegas. Close to, I believe, over 100,000 people attend. It's an international conference. It is huge. I've been very grateful to be been able to attend those conferences. But if you hear about conferences or mixers, you shouldn't have any apprehension about going. A lot of these there's food and drink. You grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and everyone is there to talk, because that's how you build connections. That's how you build a network. I remember when I went to my first one, when I started at UNT, it was in Dallas, and it was at a restaurant, and I didn't know anyone there. And so I grabbed a plate of nachos and a Dr. Pepper, and I just sat there going, well, this was a waste of time. But it's a waste of time if you go without thinking you have to just sit there by yourself. You have to take that step and talk to someone. Because then instead of one, it's two, and then you too will go talk to someone else. Your group is three. By the time you get to your car, your network of one became a network of seven overnight. So I know not everyone is an introvert, and that is a very difficult thing. So with that, you have online networking events that you can attend, Zoom events. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to. It does help. But you can attend these online events. When things do get back to normal, I do encourage you to go to these mixers, meet people, and see what they're doing. And maybe they're doing something different than you're doing, and maybe something more efficient. And that's why Jeff and I go to trade shows and these networking events, because we know what we have here is great, but we're not the only people in Texas doing what we do. There are so many people, and they're doing it all differently. And I want to see what someone in Addison is doing, or in Arlington, or what someone from the Cowboys are doing, from the Rangers, someone from AT&T or the American Airlines, because maybe they're doing something that will make us run more efficiently and maybe reduce our stress a little. So there's so many benefits to attending networking events.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's really, really great advice. I'm wondering if you have any other advice for students trying to find a job in this field. I know you mentioned some professional organizations, but do you know of anything on campus that they could get involved in?
I don't know offhand. That's a great question. I wish I knew that answer. But what I like to think is, if you're applying for a job, if you're applying for a job, you'll see the list of requirements that they have. Look at what they're doing, and if 3 or 4 positions that are open are looking for a certain skill set or looking for a certain software, this is an amazing time that we're in right now, where you can learn a software on YouTube or LinkedIn or on almost any site. You can learn software so quickly. It's amazing. I wish I had this when I was much younger, but you can learn software quickly. And even with hardware, if there's a certain camera, for example, that everyone is using in your industry, well, you can go to a trade show and look at that camera and learn it, but you can download the manual and learn the camera that way. Obviously, it's not hands-on, but if you want that hands-on experience, you can rent the camera as well. There are so many rental houses in Dallas that will let you rent the cameras, or if you go in, they will let you look at it for free. So there's a lot of resources for that. But there are plenty of entry-level positions in media production. And if you're okay with it, I would highly encourage you to do an internship. Internships are, in my opinion, gold. You can get your foot in the door in so many places by just doing an internship. So one of my student employees a while back did an internship at AT&T. Even though they weren't hiring, she got in through an internship, unpaid internship, but she was doing it, and now she works there. She did a bang-up job, and they said, "Why don't you stay?" And they offered her a position. So if you have the means to do an internship, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm curious if there are any myths that you've kind of always wanted to bust about your job.
Okay. So video editing takes a very long time to do. It's not like what you can do on your phone or on your iPad. It's a time-consuming process. And once you've done it, you understand why it takes so long. Because there's so many elements. It's just not putting it in your computer and spitting it back out. There's a lot of things that need to happen. You need to edit audio. You need to edit the video. You need to cut out all of the introduction stuff before you actually get started. You want to bring in graphics. You may want to bring in music. You may even want to do animations. This all takes a lot of time to do. So don't be under the impression that, well, I'm going to be the next YouTube star, so I'm just going to edit video really quickly. There's nothing quickly about video production. It just doesn't exist. So the other thing is sometimes we get faculty members wondering why everything is so expensive in media production, which it is. There's no way around it. We try to curb those costs when we do purchase equipment by using educational discounts and purchasing when there are bigger sales. But the cameras you buy at Best Buy are not the same cameras I have in my studio, because they have to work with our integration with our control room. So there are some, and with us, we use certain microphones. The microphones need to be connected to the cameras. So I went to Best Buy recently with my parents, and they were like, "Look, this camera costs $300. Why don't you just buy a few of these?" You know, and it's difficult to explain sometimes. Those are some of the myths.
Yeah, definitely. I've had those same thoughts of why is everything so expensive? So, yeah. If you're comfortable sharing, if it does, how does this job affect your lifestyle? And then do you practice self-care, and how?
So I think I understand your question. So before I was here, and in middle school and high school, photography is what interested me the most. And so I still do that. And so in my spare time, I still take pictures for me, not for anybody else. And it's kind of my outlet, my release from work. You know, it's my creative release that's my own time that I can get away, unplug all of this, and just take simple pictures with a film camera or maybe even a digital camera. And that's sort of how I like to, I wouldn't say reset, but get back to, you know, who I am, is to go out and just maybe spend 3-4 hours taking pictures. And that's nice. With our job, Jeff and I both, I wouldn't say it's a physically demanding job, but sometimes there is a physical aspect to it. And so if we have a shoot say at the Union or in Matthews Hall or in anywhere on campus for that matter, we do have to take some of this stuff with us. It has to come with us. So both Jeff and I are active. We both go to the gym. Jeff plays soccer. I try to ride my bike, go for a walk, go to the gym, lift weights. All of that helps. That way, if we do have to carry a camera up 2 flights of stairs, we're not out of breath. So that's something we do just to keep us in shape for our job, but also our overall health and mental health.
That's great. I have one more question for you, and it's probably the hard one. So what is your favorite thing about your job?
Oh, that's an easy question. My favorite thing about my job is that we get to come here and create. So we get to create something that didn't exist 10 minutes ago, which is great. It's so much fun to make something that wasn't there. So a professor just comes in with an idea, and that's all they have. They come in with an idea on a piece of paper, and it's our job to make it come to life, to help not only the professor, but the students. So that part is really fun because it's challenging at times, it's fun at times, it's creative, it's everything. And so very few jobs have that. And that's why we don't take it for granted. We really enjoy that part of the job. And the other part is working with the team. Everyone brings something different to the team, to our dynamic. We have someone who's starting soon from sports. Jeff has been with Clear, with UNT for quite some time, and he really appreciates the production side, the gear side. And then we have two part-timers, 2 students that are always really fun to bounce ideas from, because they're in production classes. They're watching all the old movies, all the new movies, and bringing in a fresh look, fresh opinions to something. So it's really great to just work with the team.
That's really fantastic. And I know Macy said she was going to give you one last question, but I'm going to give you one last question and then we'll let you go. I'm just thinking about, our students that are watching this session and they're in school and they're hearing you talk about your experience with Clear and how you got here. What was the one piece of advice or something that really, really stuck with you throughout your process that really gave you the motivation that you were looking for to push through, to find the best opportunities for yourself as an undergraduate student or as someone just fresh out of college?
So it was really hard, I won't lie to you. When I graduated college, I graduated. So I have 2 degrees. I have an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. When I graduated in 2003, the U.S. was still trying to recover from the terrorist attacks of 2001. The job market was awful, and it was so easy to get discouraged because I had just graduated and my field was not hiring. There was nothing to be found. And so it was really upsetting, and at some point you have to wonder, do you want to stick with what you did? Or do you want to go back to school or find a new degree, new trade? It was really upsetting, but I was lucky to stay at the museum. They were really welcoming me there. They wanted me to stay. They liked the job I was doing. So them encouraging me to stay and telling me I was doing a good job was really great. I needed to hear that, not just for my self-esteem, but just to know that I can keep continuing with this line of work. But I won't lie to you. I did look at other jobs that were hiring, and maybe jobs that were more lucrative. But I knew my happiness was here, was in media production. So I wanted to stay true to that. And so staying there And even though it took me a long time to find work here at UNT, I just stayed true to that and tried to improve every day, every month, every year. I tried to do things that I didn't know. So it's easy to get discouraged, but there's so many new skills and new trades that you can learn in your field, and that's what I did. So when I couldn't find a job, I decided to learn new software that would help me become even more marketable, and that's how I stayed the course, and it worked out.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like definitely staying curious and being open to opportunities and continuing to learn. I think that's valuable for any career path, is recognizing that you can always learn more, you can always find new information, and never to feel like you're I believe never to feel you're an expert at anything, because you want to continue to learn, because the world continues to grow, technology continues to change. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I can go ahead and wrap us up if that's okay, Macy. Again, thank you so much for being here. And we will be posting the recording of this session on our website. So you can find all of our Take Flight videos on our website, so you can join the conversation with us. And if you have feedback, if you're watching this video as a playback and you have feedback for us, we encourage you to take our survey, so that we can learn a little bit more about your experience and help you to connect to future events just like this one. So again, thank you so much, Vishal, for being here. Macy, thank you so much for bringing this event to the UNT student body, and I hope that you both have an amazing day.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye for now.